When you look at a massive centuries-old oak tree, it's incredibly easy to just focus on the branches.
Oh, absolutely. The canopy is what catches the eye.
Right. You look up, you see the leaves catching the sunlight, and you think,
Oh.
wow, what a magnificent structure. But what you're completely missing is that the actual strength of that tree, the thing that keeps it anchored during like a Category 5 hurricane, is this invisible network of roots running deep underground.
Yeah, fighting through rock and dense soil just to keep everything standing.
Exactly. And that invisible underground strength is the exact core of our deep dive today. We're getting into Amanda Parks' book, The Heiress and the Golden Boy, Roots of Legacy.
Such a great read.
It really is. And, on the surface, if you just glance at the summary, this reads like your classic soapy campus drama.
Right, like something you'd watch on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. But for you listening, our mission today is to show you how, in reality, it's this ruthless masterclass in strategic patience. It's about the undeniable power of authenticity and the mechanics of building deep roots in a world that is just entirely obsessed with the surface.
It absolutely is. And, what's fascinating here is the vehicle Parks uses to deliver this masterclass. It's the dynamic between two deeply fascinating central figures who just operate completely outside the normal campus ecosystem.
Oh, yeah. They are in a league of their own.
For sure.
Yeah.
So first we have Annalise. She is an exceptionally brilliant student, described with mousy caramel skin and this cloud of chestnut curls. But she's actually hiding a massive billionaire inheritance.
Which she acquired after losing her parents in a tragic plane crash.
Yeah, exactly. It's an awful tragedy. But instead of living large or leveraging that wealth for social capital, she actively prefers the quiet, unglamorous life of a dusty farm with her grandparents. She even purposely sits in the back of her Calc 3rd class just to avoid attention.
I love that. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have Christian, who is, the quintessential golden boy.
He really is.
He's tall, athletic, chocolate-skinned, and the student body president. But he didn't, buy his way into that position.
No, not at all.
He fought his way up from absolute poverty. He brought a perfect SAT score and a flawless GPA with him. He is universally adored on campus, but he's completely uninterested in the superficial elite crowd.
Right. He couldn't care less about them.
Instead, his eyes are constantly wandering to the back of that Calc 3rd class, watching Annalise.
And what stands out to me early on is how they test each other's authenticity. Because, they both actively reject the status-obsessed culture around them, but they need to know if the other person is genuinely on the same wavelength.
Right. Is this real or is it an act?
Exactly.
Right.
We see this perfectly encapsulated in what the text frames as the harvest test. So Christiane makes it clear he wants to date Annalise, and she warns him that spending her weekend at the family farm means a lot of dirt and hard work.
She doesn't sugarcoat it.
Not at all. But Christiane doesn't flinch. When they arrive, he doesn't give Annalise's grandfather, Silas, some, slick politician handshake.
Oh, I love this part. He just gets right to work.
Yeah. He takes off his jacket, rolls up his sleeves, and immediately offers to fix a leaning timber fence.
And that's really just the warm-up.
It really is. The real test comes the next morning at 6 a.m. Christiane is out there in this faded flannel, hauling heavy cedar posts and hammering wire alongside Silas for 4 straight hours.
Wow.
Yeah, he lets his knuckles scrape, he lets his boots cake with mud. He doesn't complain once.
That's intense.
It is. In sociological terms, Christiane is demonstrating what we call costly signaling. Anyone can say they respect hard work, but giving up your Saturday morning to bleed over a fence is a signal that simply cannot be faked by a status seeker.
Right. You can't just pretend to do that.
No. He proved that he inherently values the unglamorous, painful mechanics of growth over the easy optics of campus popularity.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because I'm looking at this through the lens of market dynamics, and I think it's a great way for you, the listener, to visualize what's actually happening here.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
Yeah, so Annalise is essentially like a deep value stock. She is sitting there totally ignored by the broader market because her packaging is just plain.
Yeah.
She isn't doing any PR. She isn't flashing her billionaire status. While Chrisen, he's the high-growth tech stock.
Right, the one everyone is watching.
Exactly. He's got all the momentum, all the visibility. But he's smart enough to look past the packaging and recognize her underlying fundamentals. He sees the intrinsic value that everyone else is just, too blind to notice.
I see where you're going with the value stock analogy, but I'd actually argue that's slightly incomplete.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, a stock is passive, right? It just sits there on the exchange waiting to be discovered. Annalise isn't waiting. She is actively weaponizing her obscurity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she is using her plain exterior as a filter to keep the superficial players away. It ensures that the only people who approach her are those willing to do the actual deep analysis.
Okay, that makes sense. But there is a fatal flaw in weaponizing obscurity, right? Eventually, someone trips over you.
They always do.
And when you possess that kind of undeniable, grounded authenticity in a highly superficial environment, it makes you a massive target.
Oh, absolutely.
People who trade entirely in the currency of status feel inherently threatened by someone who just ignores that currency. Which brings us to the first major conflict of the book.
Right, the shift from romance to war.
Exactly. We move from the construction of a relationship into the brutal defense of a reputation. And the primary antagonist in this phase is a student named Vanessa.
Oh, Vanessa. She is the living embodiment of a status symbol. She is all surface, all optics, and entirely fueled by the campus social hierarchy.
She is the worst.
She really is. And she decides to attack Annalise at the university gala. So Annalise shows up to this event completely transformed, wearing this flowing emerald silk gown, looking just breathtaking.
And Vanessa can't handle it.
No, she hates it. So Vanessa tries to shame her in front of the entire room by projecting a quote-unquote leaked photo of Christiane working in the mud at the farm, mocking them for playing house in the dirt.
Which is just so petty. And when that doesn't get the reaction she wants, Vanessa drops what she thinks is the ultimate social bomb. She exposes Annalise's hidden billionaire wealth to the whole gala.
Yeah, she thinks this is the kill shot.
Right. She expects Annalise to just crumble from the exposure and the accusation of being a fraud.
But the mechanism of shame requires the victim's consent. And Annalise simply refuses to give Vanessa that consent.
I love that phrase. Refuses to give consent to the shame.
Exactly. She instantly owns the narrative. She calmly explains to the room that she works the land because true value comes from what you build with your own hands, not what you inherit on paper.
Which just completely defangs Vanessa's attack.
It does, because Annalise doesn't try to hide from the truth, she just recontextualizes it.
So, having failed at social sabotage, Vanessa decides to escalate to academic warfare. She uses her position as the dean's student assistant to steal the answer key for the Advanced Agricultural Economics final.
Which is a huge deal.
A massive deal. Keep in mind, this exam is worth 50% of their final grade. So Vanessa's plan is to slip this key into Annalise's bag, specifically her late father's vintage leather satchel, and then tip off the proctor in the middle of the exam to get Annalise expelled for cheating.
And she successfully plants it. She actually waits 30 minutes into the exam, raises her hand, and points the finger.
The audacity.
I know. The professor calls Annalise out, pulls a folded paper from her bag. But, and this is the best part, it isn't the answer key.
Yep.
It is a formal academic integrity report signed by Vanessa herself detailing Annalise's supposed plan to cheat. And attached to that report is the stolen answer key.
It is just such an incredible reversal.
It really is. And the reason Annalise was able to pull this off without breaking a sweat comes down to pure habitual discipline.
Right.
She has a strict routine of checking her late father's bag before every major event. So she found the planted key before the exam even started.
Okay, but instead of panicking, she called Christiane. Right.
Yes, acting in his official capacity as student body president. Together, they went to the dean's office, checked the security footage to definitively confirm Vanessa stole it, and then swapped the planted paper in the bag with Vanessa's own formal complaint.
Okay, here's what I struggle with, though. And maybe you listening are wondering this too. Why let Vanessa spring the trap in the middle of a final exam worth half her grade?
It seems risky, right?
It is an insane amount of risk. If Annalise found the key beforehand, wouldn't it be so much safer to just march straight to the dean before the test starts, hand over the evidence, and quietly handle it behind closed doors? Like, why endure the public spectacle?
Well, that is the logical question, but it ignores the psychology of institutional conflict.
Okay, walk me through that.
If Annalise reports Vanessa privately, it becomes an administrative issue, and bureaucracies inherently protect the status quo.
Oh, sure. They sweep things under the rug.
Exactly. Vanessa might just get a slap on the wrist, or she might spin a story about how she was framed by the student president.
Right. She could play the victim.
Yes. But by letting Vanessa play her hand entirely in front of the professor and the entire class, Annalise completely bypasses the bureaucracy. She lets her opponent overcommit to a lie in public.
Ah, I see.
When you let an adversary confidently walk into their own trap in front of an audience, you remove all plausible deniability. It ensures Vanessa's absolute academic ruin because everyone witnessed her orchestrating the malice.
Wow, so it's not just about defending herself in the moment. It's about neutralizing the threat permanently. Like you don't just block the punch, you let them swing so hard they fall out of the ring entirely.
Precisely. That is exactly it. But, there is a secondary consequence to this kind of public dismantling.
You're like,
When you trap a minor threat like Vanessa, the noise invariably wakes up the apex predators in the room. You attract the attention of the wealthier legacy elites who realize you are actually a threat to their hierarchy.
and that's exactly what happens with Julian.
Yes. Julian is this bitter rival, and his family owns a predatory chemical conglomerate. And he decides he's not just going to attack Annalise's academic integrity, he wants to completely destroy her professional credibility and publicly mock her emotional legacy.
He goes for the jugular. And the arena he chooses is the prestigious senior capstone presentation.
Which is high stakes.
Super high stakes.
Yeah.
This isn't just a classroom exercise. It is packed with real-world investors and industry scouts. So Annalise is on stage, ready to pitch her sustainable soil revitalization plan. She goes to start her presentation, and Julian hacks the projector feed.
Ugh, this part is so hard to read.
It is. He doesn't just show a blank screen. He projects these deeply personal, unauthorized photos of a young, muddy, tear-stained Annalise standing completely alone at the funeral of her parents.
And he plays an altered voiceover mocking her as a billionaire playing in the dirt.
It is unimaginably cool.
It really is.
Okay.
And notice the mechanism of Julian's attack here. He isn't attacking her data or her business model.
No.
He is attacking her nervous system. He is trying to force an emotional hijack, attempting to reduce her to a traumatized child in front of the very people she desperately needs to impress.
But she doesn't hijack.
No, she doesn't.
She doesn't run off stage crying,
Yeah.
and she doesn't even scramble to turn off the screen. She uses her remote to freeze the image of her parents' funeral. She stares down Julian and tells the entire auditorium that that photo was the exact day she learned money can't buy life.
Such a powerful moment.
Right, and she says it certainly can't buy the integrity needed to run a sustainable company.
Yeah.
Then she just casually pulls out a backup flash drive, she plugs it in, and slams her data over his hack. She announces that she just finalized a patent for a soil enzyme that will render Julian's family's chemical fertilizers completely obsolete. And then the absolute knockout punch. She reveals she used her billionaire inheritance to secretly buy the controlling shares in his father's primary distribution company.
The strategy at play here is just breathtaking. We really have to understand how this enzyme actually works to appreciate the depth of her counterstrike.
Okay, let's break it down.
So Julian's family sells chemicals that deplete the natural soil biome, which basically forces farmers to buy more of their chemicals next season.
Right, it's a forced dependency loop.
Exactly. But Annalise's enzyme repairs the soil biome, breaking the loop entirely. She isn't just getting revenge on Julian, she is initiating a structural paradigm shift that destroys his family's entire business model.
Man. Instead of calling this a dramatic reversal, I think a better way to visualize this strategy for you listening is as a controlled burn.
Oh, I like that. Like forestry.
Yeah, exactly. Think about how wildland firefighters stop a raging forest fire. They don't just spray water at it. They start a smaller, controlled fire right in its path to consume all the brush and fuel.
Right.
By letting Julian mock her childhood tragedy, she initiated a controlled burn. She let him burn through all the oxygen in the room, creating this intense, dramatic vacuum. So when she unveiled the real fire, the ruthless corporate takeover, and the patent, Julian had absolutely no social, emotional, or professional fuel left to defend himself.
He was completely empty.
Yeah, she used the gravity of his attack to multiply the impact of her success.
And she explicitly tells the investors in that room that she used her inheritance to... Yes. This is the ultimate lesson in resource allocation. While Julian and the campus elites were spending their energy and capital on petty drama and, status signaling, she was quietly navigating corporate acquisitions and filing complex scientific patents. She didn't act until she had absolute systemic leverage.
So, having completely lost in the social arena with Vanessa and having been utterly humiliated in the professional arena with Julian, the elites resort to the one arena where they feel they write the rules.
Institutional and legal force.
Exactly. They decide to go after the one thing Annalise loves more than anything else, the farm itself.
They attempt to strike directly at her roots. When social pressure fails, entrenched power always defaults to legal pressure.
And this brings us to the climax of the story. Annalise is sitting in a senior ethics seminar. Vanessa walks in, accompanied by a sleek lawyer in a gray suit who represents a massive development consortium backed by Julian's family,
They just ambush her.
right there in the middle of class.
Yeah.
They drop a massive stack of papers on her desk and claim they found a clerical error in the 1998 deed to her grandparents' property. They inform her that the northern half of the farm, which includes the family house, and horrifically the burial plot of her parents, was never legally transferred to her grandfather.
It's sickening.
And Julian is sitting in the back row, sneering that the bulldozers are coming tomorrow morning to build a chemical storage facility right over her parents' graves. Unless, of course, she hands over her entire inheritance to stop them.
It is extortion, completely dressed up in dense legal jargon.
Yeah.
And for a brief moment, it really seems like they finally cornered her because they're using the weight of the state against her.
It's the one time in the entire book she actually physically shakes.
Yeah.
But then she grounds herself. She visualizes the farm. She reaches into her father's vintage satchel and pulls out a small, tarnished silver key. She hooks it up to a digital scan on the projector.
And she turns the tables one last time, using the depth of her historical knowledge as an impenetrable moat.
It's brilliant.
It is. Julian and his lawyer, true to their superficial nature, they only looked at the easily accessible, surface-level county records from 1998. But Annalise understands her history. She projects the original land grant of 1865, which was given directly to her great-great-grandfather by the state legislature, and embedded in the text of that original 1865 deed is a cemetery protection clause. It clearly stipulates that if any part of the land contains a family burial site, the entire property instantly becomes a historical sanctuary.
Think about how this applies to you listening to this right now. Why do Julian and his high-priced lawyers rely on a 1998 deed error? Because 1998 is digitized.
Right. It's easy.
It's in the county computer system. It is frictionless data. But Annalise went past the frictionless boundary. She dug into the foundational truth.
And that foundational truth provides a jurisdictional checkmate. Federal and state heritage laws surrounding historical sanctuaries completely supersede the local zoning boards that Julian's family can easily bribe.
Oh, absolutely.
The property is ironclad immune to all commercial development or deed disputes. The bulldozers are stopped dead by a piece of paper from the 1860s.
And the absolute cherry on top of this entire sequence. She looks at the lawyer standing over her desk and casually mentions that she used her inheritance the day before to buy the debt on his specific law firm. And she fires him on the spot, right in front of the ethics professor.
It is the invisible deployment of capital. Julian used his money loudly to hire the lawyer. Annalise used her money invisibly to own the lawyer's boss.
Which brings us to the resolution, the final harvest of all this strategic planting. It's graduation day, the sky is blue, everyone's in their caps and gowns, but Silas, Annalise's grandfather, shows up in a stiff suit alongside a man named Marcus Thorne.
The twist.
Yes, Marcus is the disgraced former CEO of Julian's father's company. And they aren't there to listen to the commencement speech. They reveal that an independent audit just proved Julian's father wasn't just trying to steal Annalise's land. He had been actively laundering his chemical profits through the university's endowment fund for years.
Wow.
Marcus has brought all the receipts. Julian is escorted away by federal security, his father's empire completely crumbles, and Annalise and Christian use their time on the graduation stage to announce the launch of the Harvest Foundation, providing full-ride scholarships to students who want to change the world with hard work instead of legacy connections.
It is a total systemic cleansing. The corrupt roots are pulled out, and new, healthy seeds are planted in the soil they just protected.
The book actually gives us an epilogue set 1 year later.
Oh, right. Wrapping everything up.
Yeah. The farm now hosts the Thorne Christian Research Center. They are actively bringing in those new Harvest scholars.
Yeah.
And what about our antagonists? Julian is now a lowly junior clerk at a legal aid firm. The exact kind of unglamorous, grinding environment he used to viciously mock.
A herma.
Big time. And Vanessa's out there failing as a lifestyle influencer, desperately trying to sell an authenticity that no one is buying because it has no roots. Meanwhile, Annalise and Christine are standing on the porch of the farmhouse, watching the sunset, planning to plant a new orchard together.
The recurring theme here, from the very first interaction fixing the fence to that final scene on the porch, is patience. Annalise and Christina won every single battle because they profoundly understood that the best things in life are grown, not bought. They cultivated their intellect, they nurtured their relationship through actual labor, and they meticulously grew their strategy quietly, entirely out of sight.
While everyone else was scrambling.
Right. Meanwhile, their enemies obsessed over immediate status, quick wins, and surface-level optics. When the storm finally came, the elites were just brittle branches that snapped in the wind. Annalise and Crisian were the deep roots that held firm.
We spent this entire deep dive talking about how deep roots protect you from surface-level attacks. We've looked at how Annalise used time, history, and authenticity to dismantle people who were obsessed with optics.
We have.
But here is something for you to think about on your commute tomorrow. What happens when two people with equally deep roots go to war?
Ooh, that's a scary thought.
Right. If Julian had spent his massive legacy inheritance building a foundational, innovative empire of his own, instead of just buying superficial status and bullying classmates, how would Annalise have fought him? Is authenticity and patience always enough to win the day? Or does it eventually just come down to who has the most capital and the deepest trenches? Keep tending your roots. You never quite know what's growing in the plot next door.